Defending champion against Dimitri Mazunov, the 17-year-old younger brother of Andrzej Mazunov, who is already through to the final. Many would suggest that Grubba is perhaps the favourite for this title. He has shown good and solid skill throughout and technique throughout this tournament. He's never been under real pressure and has the full range of strokes. But Donald, this Mazenoff fellow is only 17 and really is this season beginning to make his mark in senior table tennis, isn't he?
That's right. He didn't play in the Olympic Games, but since the Olympic Games he's produced tremendous form. He won the Yugoslav Open. In fact, the semi-final of the Yugoslav Open was this very match, and of course Dimitri Mazunov won.
2-4. You probably heard in the background there the scoreline at 2-4, with Grubba with the advantage at the moment. And once again, you saw there that backhand topspin shot from the Soviet. Not quite so pronounced in his service, but my goodness, that was marvellous reading of the pace and spin of the ball from Grubba. Have a look at this. Lots of spin on that ball. And watch the ball go this. Look at that. Super. Yes, he's certainly a talent. He's the only one of the final four, the semi-finalists, who didn't appear in the Seoul Olympic Games. But I reckon that he'll be there in future.
5-0 Grubba.
Very interesting to watch the Russians. Not only have they got very powerful backhands, but they can actually hit the backhands down the line, down the diagonal. It's very difficult for the opponent to read where it's going.
6-5.
I'll just look at Grubba. He looks so relaxed and controlled, and he's got a very good temperament for match play.
6-all.
Level at 6-all then. Ranked number 5 in the world. 30 years old.
7-6.
Actually, just looking at one of the statistics relating to him, he won the World Cup in 1988, but he beat 3 Chinese players in straight games, and that's one of the great European performances.
(7-8) Mazenoff.
There is no doubt now the gap between Europe and Asia is negligible, and Grubba is one of the players who must take great credit for that.
7-9.
Throws the ball very, very high. Well, that actually, you saw the young Soviet slow down the pace of the ball there, change the spin a little, and Grubba misread it, and he knew it.
Both these players like to topspin away from the table, so I think we may see a few more rallies similar to the previous one. Both players away from the table. We call it loop the loop.
9-10.
Oh, marvellous stuff. Well, that shot gave you such a good idea of the pace of the ball there. The retrieval there, look at that. A little drop shot, he gets it back, but it's too long. (11-9).
12-9.
It's interesting to see how Grubba is trying to stay close to the table and force Mazenoff away from the table. I think if he's successful in doing that, then he should win the game.
Well, disguise on the spin. There was an enormous amount of spin on the ball, particularly that last shot from Grubba. Look at the power. It's got a good solid base from which to strike the ball here, and the disguise on that ball led to the end result you saw. So 14-9 it is. First game, best of 3 games.
15-9. 9-16, Mazenoff.
While it doesn't look as though there's a great deal of pace on that ball, I can assure you there's a tremendous amount of spin. Grubba, as you can see, determined to stay close to the table, and for sure that tactic is paying dividends.
Well, he forced the young Soviet into a defensive role in the left-hand side of the table, and then changed pace and direction, and had him, as you see, almost in the front row of the seats, out of the area. Have a close look at that. Keeps him on the left side twice in succession, then changes. And also increased the pace. That was quite brilliant. Well, Mazenoff must be wondering what he's got to do here, because he's being put under a lot of pressure. And, of course, every player likes to dominate, but he's not being allowed to at the moment. He's playing as well as he's being allowed to at present.
18-12.
Grubba must be a little careful now. 18-9 up, the last 3 points have slipped away, unforced errors. He's got to get his concentration back and finish the game off.
19-12.
Grubba, like Mazenov's older brother, shields the ball with his free arm, makes it difficult to see the spin on the ball.
20,
and indeed has forced 2 mistakes from Mazenoff.
There's nothing wrong with that shot.
20-13.
So, point and a good recovery there. 14. He has 6 points in advantage, does Grubba, with service for the first game.
Not only was that an excellent shot, but the direction was superb as well. Normally he's been looping on the diagonal, that one straight down the line. Great shot.
Oh, yes. Well, it was allowed to get into a good, solid position to strike on the forehand, putting the top spin on it, and the result, 21-15, and Grubba looks confident. Well, let's just look at that last point. It was a very positive piece of play by the Pole. He's up to the table, forcing the Soviet away, but that was good disguise, because Mazenoff thought the ball was going to the right-hand side there, and it didn't. That was very fine disguise indeed. So his 30 is Andrzej Grubba. Tournament record, that's here in this championship. Beat Liang of China 2-0, then Cook of England 2-0, and then beat Mazenoff 2-1. There's the stature of the man, world ranking 5, as I said earlier. European ranking as well, European Cup winner, World Cup winner I should say, in 1988. So there's a pedigree there, and my goodness, it's showing. Well, if Grubba can show the same form in this second game, then he may be in business. Second game.
Not one.
Mazenoff already a point down very quickly, but that was a positive strike on the ball, and he'll need to do that more often. Remember, he is only a youngster, and he's against a player of immense experience here.
1-2.
Grubba is handling Mazenov's serves extremely well. Mazenoff is very keen to get in with his forehand backhand topspin and force Grubba away from the table, but he's unable to capitalise on Grubba's return.
What a good shot.
4-1 Grubba.
And he forced his opponent further back and further back and further back, and he really attacks the return, as you were saying, Donald. He puts real pressure. Look how the Soviet's having to move back every single time the ball comes back to him. He's having to go further back, anticipating the spin and strike on that ball. Well, Grubba very much in the driving seat here in this second game.
5-2.
So far, this game is centred around service and receive. Mazenoff is unable to stop Grubba getting in with his topspin, and therefore it's Mazenoff who's been forced away from the table point after point.
6-2.
It requires tremendous skill to touch the ball back tightly over the net. And it's something that Grubba's doing better than Mazenoff up to this point in time.
6-3 then, just to remind you.
3-7
Second game.
Mazenoff.
And a real problem for the youngster. He was beaten by Desmond Douglas in the qualification for the semi-final stage, so that defeat won't have done him any good, and really he is up against the favourite for this championship. But he will be learning, and that's what these tournaments are about. Don't get me wrong, he's not... he is a very talented player already, but still very much a junior learning his trade.
It's interesting how the Russians are very good at top spinning the ball, but smashing the ball, in other words hitting straight through it, is not one of their strengths, and I think we saw that during that point.
4-9.
Well, Andrzej Grubba is playing with a real confidence here, and that scoreline underlines that fact.
4-10.
Grubba's only danger now, I feel, is one of concentration. He must keep his concentration and keep the pressure on all the time.
11-4 Grubba.
But we can see the variation in the play. I mean, he plays well short, he drives his opponent back, he lures him in, then drives him back again. It's very much the rhythm of the game being controlled by the pole at the moment. There's an example of it.
4.
That's quite a big margin now at 12-4. Well, even young Mazenoff applauded Grubba's shot there.
It's fascinating now how Grubba actually changed hands. We can see him here top spinning with his left hand. He's put the bat in the other hand. Quite incredible.
14-4.
I don't think many people in the crowd noticed that. He was that competent with his left hand. It looked equally as good as with his right hand.
An interesting fact, that. Oh, only just missed the table. Huge from the crowd.
It's quite obvious now why Grubba is so popular with the English crowds.
Now, there was an example of the spin that was put on, the top spin that was put on by Grubba there, and Mazenoff was completely mesmerised by it, changed his mind twice quite clearly, and then didn't hit it at all. What a good rally that was.
Even though that ball is going very high, there's a tremendous amount of topspin and it's bouncing very deep on Mazenoff's side of the table. Not an easy ball to put away.
7-15.
Well, it was worth having another look at that, and just to bring you up to the date with the score, it is 7-15 now, so there's been an extra point while you're away, but it was well worth looking at because that was spectacular in every sense. Well, now 8-15 and problems.
9-15.
Grubba's just got to be a little bit careful. He's enjoyed himself for 4 or 5 points. The gap's narrowed. Just needs to get his concentration back and just increase the gap again.
Yes, a little bit lax there. He'll walk away and he'll sort himself out. You can see him now composing himself again, because as you say, Donald, the composure must stay there. There's nothing worse than complacency when you are in the driving seat and dominant, totally dominant as he is.
If you have a bad 15 seconds in table tennis, you can lose 3 or 4 points quite easily. And of course, a 15-10 lead is suddenly narrowed down to a 1-point lead.
17-10.
Grubba now certainly got his concentration back, serving very tightly, stopping Mazenoff getting with his top spins, tied the game down completely.
Oh, well retrieved. Oh, he almost got back to that retrieval. Well, he moved like lightning around the table. Have a closer look at that. He's almost standing next to Mazenoff at one stage, and then he takes it back and just misses. Chopped that ball, tried to diminish the spin and get it back on the table, but couldn't. I'll tell you, they're taking a breather at the moment. This is quite a hard, fast game. 18-11. Second game.
12-18, Mazenoff.
I'm sure Mazenoff hasn't given in yet. I'm sure he's going to try and serve tight, get in with a strong topspin, and just see if he can get back into this game. Which is exactly what he did on that point. The Russians are renowned for the fighting spirit. Interesting to see whether he can get back into this game. I doubt it, but you never can tell.
Well, just for once, the shot just a little bit long. Mazenoff, you could see, was wondering what on earth he had to do to that ball to get it down and for it to stay down. Tremendous looping, driving shots from the Soviet at the far end.
Interesting there how Grubba previously had gone away from the table to retrieve. Here he is now. I'm sure he'll be looking to stay close to the table and get this game over with.
Well, there it is, 14-19, so we've moved on one more point, but the picture remains the same. The Pole well in the lead, but plenty of fight from young Dimitri.
20-15,
So, match point for the Pole to take his place in the final. Well, that's it. And what a good battle that was. One Mazenoff brother defeated in the semi-final, and Grubba knows that he's got another to meet in the final. That's Andrzej Mazunov, who beat Desmond Douglas 21-19, 21-17. There it is, 21-15 in that second game. 2 games to love, and Andrzej Grubba of Poland goes confidently through to the final.
We'll see that final in about 10 minutes from now.
Climax of this